All right, so I'm Cory Johnson. This is Mariah. As you can see, she's very strong. So I thought what would be good when they decided to do a self-defense seminar, I would have maybe someone like Crane. I call her Crane for obvious reasons. To kind of help explain, like, self-defense is, I don't really like the term when people say, self-defense sometimes, because I feel like it's very limiting in what they can do and can't do. And a lot of times it really waters down like the real techniques that you need to be able to defend yourself. So let's go from some basic things, and I'll start to explain a lot of things as we go. So there's going to be a whole lot of talking. Like, we do a lot of self-defense seminars, especially for like sororities. We have a big college here, so we do a lot there. So first things first, and at the end, I'll get into like my opinions on self-defense as a whole and situational awareness and confidence and things like that. So don't let me forget. So first things first, the most important thing ever, whether it's fighting competitively or if you get into an altercation somewhere, at the grocery store, whatever it is you're doing, is going to be my stance and how I'm able to move. Because if you've ever watched a YouTube video, 99% of all fights fall over to the ground because guys take terrible steps and they're just untrained, right? So, I mean, obviously we can't blame anybody because they're not trained well. So the first thing that we're going to have to go over is stance, steps together, right? So I'm going to incorporate in our first technique, right? So a quick little intro on how we get into a stance. We start in like shoulder feet together like we're in the military. I take a step, shoulder width apart. If I'm right hand, my left foot's going to go forward. If I'm left-handed, my right foot's going to go forward. So we're both right-handed. So we take a step forward with our left foot, right? Now we're going to rotate to the corner, right? Still facing somewhat forward, but to the corner on our power dominant side. I'm going to raise my hands up and sit them on my chest and touch my eye sockets. Not because when Crane touches her eye sockets is how she's going to hold her guard, but for whatever reason, when I ask someone to touch their eye socket, it gives them that good bend in their wrist. You can probably see a better contrast on my shirt, right? I don't want to, so she can make a fist that power's delivered, correctly through her arm, right? She doesn't have a goofy fist. She doesn't have a wussy fist. So everything's strong in there. So to this corner, my elbows are sitting on my chest. My eye sockets are being touched by the inside row of my knuckles. I'm going to rotate back to the front. My feet turn and my hands are going to rotate out, but I keep that bend we like in our wrist. Excuse me. So when my hands sit on my chest, it's because I don't want to have to hold them up with my neck or whatever these muscles are, right? I don't want to have to hold them all up. I get tired. My shoulders get tired. You see this all the time in the fighters we train and stuff like that. If my hands sit on my chest, my back is relaxed, my body's relaxed, my chin's down because I can get hit in the forehead, but I cannot get hit in the nose or the jaw, right? So I keep my hands touching my eye sockets, right? So just like Crane is. Now, last step is 60% of my weight's on my front and 40's on my back. So Crane's facing you. And if I was profiled, my head is above my front leg and my back heel is up. Okay. The reason why this is important, turn and face me, Crane. I'm more committed in boxing and other sports. Of course, I can stand differently. It's not uncommon from different martial arts. But for Sanda, when you incorporate punching and wrestling and kicking, it affects the way you stand. So my head will be above my front leg, primarily because I'm more committed to hitting Crane instead of being halfway. Why not be more committed and be able to punch longer? Secondly, I'm athletic and my weight's on my front leg. I can move in and out at will. Also, when Crane shoots, right? If she shoots to take me down, if I'm standing straight up, I'm going to get murdered, right? So, but when I'm lower, I have to sprawl. She comes, I simply lower my body under her and sprawl out, right? So it's a very advantageous, protected position. Also, if my hands and elbows are in, when I say elbows in, I don't mean I want them to touch each other. I just don't want no gap in between your body. If I touch Crane, she touches me right back. She's in a good position to counter back. She's in a good position to hit me all the time. If her hands are open, it's easy to touch her, right? And she's in a bad position to where if I fight incorrectly, she throws here. We see these giant whooping, sliding punches that all you have to do is reach out and touch them in the face. All right. So now back to movement. So now we know how to stand to best protect ourselves. Now let's talk and move. So let's talk about how we move. I'll never cross your feet and We don't ever really teach people to fight both sides until they're pretty advanced. So when I move, I'm never going to cross. I'll get slipped up and trip. I reach for my left leg and go left. If I go to the right, I reach for my right foot. I go to my right. If I go forward, I don't cross. I stay in my stance. I reach for my front foot and I come forward, right? Always protected, always bending my knees, always on my toes, ready to do whatever I got to do. When I go back, I reach for my back foot and follow my right. All right. At any moment, I have to move faster than I can step. You hop. And if I go forward, I go forward. If I go backwards, I go backwards. If I go in a circle, I'm going to switch to sideways, go the other way. All right. So I'm never tripping up. I'll never end up on the ground, hopefully by a mistake on my own. So now, obviously, these things you can rewatch and train because it's probably what you need to spend the most of your time doing. But steps and stance are everything. And if we're talking about self-defense, you can never be on bottom, right? I also train jiu-jitsu. I teach jiu-jitsu. The best thing about jiu-jitsu is you learn how to fight off your back. We could get into that, but not today, and it's not what this seminar is. So, and even then, you never want to be on your back ever. It's not a good position, especially out there. It's hard. People pick you up and throw you on the concrete. So I never want to be on my back, so I can never fall. So my steps are absolutely the most important thing that I can ever have, is have a good, strong, protected base that I won't make the goofy mistakes that cost me a lot, right? So next, let's talk about another stand-up technique that I think is pretty good for self-defense, which is a front kick. So if you've ever seen any of our other videos, I mean, we've talked quite a bit. I'm for sure we've gone over, let's turn this up. We've gone over front kick, right? So to just demonstrate, if I'm taller and bigger than Crane, or she's shorter than me, she uses the length of her legs to keep me away from her, right? She can use the back leg. She's using her long legs to keep my short hands away, because 90% of the time, if you're in a street altercation with somebody, they don't train. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but if you ever fought for reals, you don't really have the desire to fight somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. And you don't get in fights outside because it's not that special to you anymore. So how to do the front kick. Crane, face that way, please. So ideally, the first move she's going to do is she's going to rotate her bottom foot and bring her knee straight up, right? Yeah. We're not going to go outside because it takes too long to come in. I'm not going to go inside and be weird. It's going to go rotate straight to the opponent. I kick my foot out and bring it back to my stance that I always have to stay in. Right? So go a few times, Crane. She rotates. Her left hand stays up to protect her face. Her other hand goes down for balance. Right? If she switches her stance to do the other leg, she would do the exact same thing, kick Crane. Her other, same hand, same leg. So the same side I'm kicking with, that hand's coming down. Right? And kicking long. Now let's talk about the important part of the technique. Just give me your foot. If Crane doesn't rotate her foot, which is a common problem that everybody who doesn't train does, she doesn't rotate her supporting leg. So this is about as far as she can kick. Not bad, but not quite far enough. If she rotates her supporting leg and now she starts to lean her hip back, lean back a little bit, Crane. There, she extends her hip and opens her hip so that she can kick as maximum distance as possible. The maximum distance possible. So instead of being straight, like on this side, I'll rotate my foot, open my hip so that I can kick as far as possible. But my foot doesn't follow my hip. It goes towards the opponent and straight, and comes back. So last, most important part of the front kick is this. Bend your knee. Crane will stay vertical. Her head will stay above her supporting leg until about the last 6 inches of her kick. Then she will lean back and extend her hip to deliver power and more length in the kick overall, right? So it's just like if you played pool, Crane's back is going to be my arm. Her leg is the pool cue. It's the same motion. I extend my back to extend my hip farther to be able to attack at a longer distance. So if it's a self-defense situation, you know, if a guy had a knife or something like that, I don't really like situational things because there's too many options. It's one thing I'll get into about self-defense later. But ideally, if I had to, it would be, get away from me. I'm kicking. I have the knife. You go. Kick. She will not let me get close to her. Right? So ideally you could use it for something like that, or to keep the dude away because you don't want to get hit in the face or anything like that. Okay. So next, if you do end up getting into this altercation and whatever, like we just showed, I got one length distance. I mean, obviously in Sandy, you could do a side kick, which is great, more powerful, more offensive. Front kick's probably easier to learn if you don't train very much. Next is going to be a cross on your dominant side. So a cross punch is going to be the punch with your dominant hand, the one that's behind your left hand, right? In my stance, we talked about it. This is square. I pull my dominant hand back to where it's hidden behind my left hand, so I can deliver my body weight and punch it, right? So bend my knees in this stance. My elbow and my hip are connected. So like every move we do has it's physics really, is I'm using the structure of my body to deliver the maximum amount of power as possible while the entire time staying safe. So we're going to use our big muscles. Crane doesn't have big muscles, but my big muscles, to throw my hand at people. Okay. So if I open my wrist or my elbow during this punch, it doesn't matter how much good rotation I have with my hips and these big muscles, my back, my butt, my feet, my calf, my toes, everything, right? I create this hinge now to where it just can't come out, right? So like if Crane faces me and she opens her elbow and I tell her to punch out, Crane, it's really hard, right? You can try this against a wall. It's hard. If she keeps her elbow down and she rotates and turns, it's hard for me to stop her because everything works in a straight line. I turn, bomb. Of course, there's other options, overhands and things like that, but not for right now. So her big muscles, her leg, her back, her butt, her quad, her thigh, her quad is a thigh, her calf, everything works in a straight line. She rotates her bottom foot over like this. It's just a trick to make sure the person sends their hip, right? Okay. If she kept her foot flat on the mat, so don't rotate and punch. You see how her hip stays? If her hip stays, there's no power. Okay. So ideally, if you get into an altercation, you want to hit as hard as you can while staying as safe as you can, because a lot of times people really don't want to fight once they get hit hard, and that happens even in sport. So she uses her big muscles, rotates, keep her elbow in. She rotates, punches a maximum distance. Her chest opens up just like her hip did on the front kick. So now her chest is facing me. There you go. So here, right? She doesn't keep her shoulders square. She extends, face the mirror, or the camera. So if she punched square, it would be a short punch that keeps a right angle in the angle of her chest and her arm. If she rotates, her chest opens up. Her chest faces the wall now, right? And if we look, now change and punch that way, Crane. You can see the entirety of her back from one shoulder blade to the other, right? So where if she punched short, it's here. Not a bad punch. It's short, but no power, right? So now last thing. Let's say, even in fighting, we talk about this a lot, like how it's not hard to throw a cross punch, right? You can teach somebody how to throw it pretty good in a week, maybe on the first day. But it's kind of hard to hit somebody, right? Because there's a lot of strategies and setups. But if done correctly, Crane gives me a cross, her chin's down, her face is covered. Man, how do I counter this? Of course there's possible ways, right? Or I give her mine, or I catch her on a left hook at the same time. But man, if Crane's but those are trained athletes who are competing, not some moron at the parking lot of a grocery store, right? So man, if Crane, it's hard for me to counter her in a way that would be significant, especially if I don't know how to fight, right? Again, everything has to be inside because let's rotate a little bit, face me like we're going to hit me. If I punch open, cross, she beats me. What's the shortest distance between 2 points? Oh, go Crane, straight line. If I'm big and wide, I get hit first. So always down the middle so punching as efficiently, as powerful, all as possible, all the while keeping it in mind that you might be open to a counter, right? So now let's talk about how you move, right? So now we know how to punch. Let's talk about how you move while you cross punch, okay? So let's back up a little bit, Crane. So all the time my hands are up because I don't want to get countered by this dude who's got a problem with me or this lady who's got a problem with me. So my hands up and my elbows are in, okay? So just like we move forward, when I move, I reach with my front foot and follow with my back. I'm not going to change the way I step because of me having to punch someone. So my elbows are in, everything's tight, I'm protected. I reach with my front foot, but my back foot doesn't move. Okay, just for right now. 1. Now 2, I'm going to throw the cross punch and bring my back foot. Right? So my hand and feet will land at the same, my hand and my right hand and my right foot will land at the same time. So I reach 1, 2. Right? I reach 1, 2. Right? So if we do it together, it's a smooth motion. Go. Bam. And I pull back, right? Because maybe I have to do it again. My hands on my head, cover my face. Bam. So I don't have the opportunity, I don't give them the opportunity to counter me. Okay? If I have to step back, you have 2 options. If I hit him or he comes to me, it's too close. I have to reach with my front foot, 1, and then step back with the same foot. Bam. So it's the same thing. I move the right hand and the right foot at the same time. There's other ways I can hop back and punch, but I think it's easier to keep this in, somewhat in a beginner's mindset, right? So I reach back, 1, 2. Okay. So let's do a drill. So you can practice this. When I go forward, I reach with my front foot and punch with my right. 1, 2. I pull back. Go for it again. 1, 2. Come back. When I step back, front leg moves first, left hand up so I don't get touched. 1, 2. 1, 2. Right? So remember, recap on the first 3 things because we're about to get into some different stuff. Stance. If Crane's in a solid stance, I move and push her, move around Crane. Circle, circle, circle. She's always mobile. It's hard for me to get her, even if I really try. Okay, ready, go. I'm going to try to get you. Circle. Oh, you a little nervous on TV, huh? Ah! Right, she can move. She keeps her hands up, and all the while she can punch me at any moment she wants because she stays in the stance that she needs to be in to do it. Front kick. All about distance. Even in fighting, I feel like it's more of a primarily a defensive movement, which is good. So if I try to touch Crane, she's a lot smaller than me. Maybe she needs to maximize the distance of keeping me away from her, right? But remember, if the move isn't correct or she has problems in her foundation or technique, she'll fall. If she falls, she's in deep crap, right? Like even me, I trained jiu-jitsu, I fought MMA, I fought Sanda, all this good stuff, whatever. If I had to get into an altercation, there is no way I'm going on the ground, right? Not by choice. Okay. So same thing with her. If her stance is bad, if her technique is bad, she won't be able to do the movement. If she bends her knees too much, she's weak. I can push her over. So all of these things, I know it's a crash course, but technique and foundation and training is so important that you will make mistakes out there, right? Or wherever. Okay. So now one thing about Sanda that I think is really important to the self-defense conversation is although Sanda has a very distinct style when you watch it. I mean, you can usually tell if you're educated and you watch enough fights, you can tell like, it's like that, right? But the great thing about Sanda is that it's an open sport, meaning that the rule set is so open to where, some of the semi-pros, you can knee, you can elbow, right? You can wrestle, you can kick, you can punch. So everything goes for the most part, except fighting on the ground, right? And I've even seen some where they let the guys fight on the ground for 30 seconds. I don't know what that's about. So Sanda is an open sport. And I think the philosophy that Sanda has, if taught correctly, is, in my opinion, is you take what works. I've trained with Division I wrestlers who have a very Western style sense of wrestling. And sometimes it's very different because the knee touching, right? But you take what works and we can change and have this skills exchange, right? Or a lot of times in the clinch, right, where most wrestling and sand is fought from a clinch, a lot of Western techniques are very similar to Western wrestling techniques are very similar to what we do in Sando, right? I don't know if you ever watched sumo. They do a lot of the same Sando quick wrestling techniques that we do there. So that open-mindedness is very, very important. I can't stress this enough. So when we teach these self-defense seminars that we do, we incorporate other things. Things that we find useful that we teach in our curriculum. Although there is no ground fighting in Sando, there is a certain side of self-defense that we need to put in there, right? Like if I can't teach Crane how to effectively defend herself, I mean, it's great if she comes in here and punches the bag and looks cool, but if she gets bullied by a 7-year-old, there's a problem. I feel like as my ability to teach someone how to fight isn't that good if they can't effectively do it in a real situation, right? So that combined with the openness of Sanda's mentality and philosophy of take what works and discard what doesn't, we incorporate some things that you probably haven't seen before, but for us, they're fairly normal because of that philosophy. So first thing is most of self-defense training, you see them put you in certain situations or like, oh, what if he holds my hand like this? What do I do? Well, I punch him in the face. That's what I do. I don't understand a lot of this cool, crazy stuff where Crane flops over like a dead fish and I killed her with my hands. It doesn't work. I mean, if you want to know what works, you watch the UFC. Those guys, what can you not do? You can't eye gouge and you can't fish hook and you can't kick in this little 3-inch slot behind the neck. Everything else goes. So we have a good idea now of what really is useful and what isn't. And if it works on someone who's trained, it will definitely work on some drunk guy who's not trained, right? So first things first, everybody should know I say should. So a common takedown for Sando, right? So we're in our stance. A lot of times, I want to take Crane down, but I don't want to commit too low to getting sprawled on, right? So I make her play around. I play with her. I'm going to take my left hand and I'm going to slam it. Obviously, if I was doing it for reals, I'm going to hit her as hard as I can with my forearm on her neck and her shoulder. Okay. I'm going to bring my weight to her. My right hand is going to knee pick the outside of her right knee, or what's her left knee. So we're here. I slam, bam. All my weight comes to her, breaking her posture. See how I run through on my right foot? My right hand catches her knee and spins to take her down, right? So let's try this angle. We'll move around so you guys can kind of get an idea. Let's go here. So here, right? My hands are up. I don't want to get caught. I play with her, or if it's a street self-defense, I keep my hands up, hand up, bam. All my weight comes to her. And I knee pick on this side and see how I follow my right foot. I commit so much that I have to run through my other foot. I cannot do it like this. There's not enough pressure. She'll start swinging her left. Yeah, she'll either sprawl out or she'll step back with this left leg. This right leg Crane circled to this way. That to where I lose the leverage to take her down. Okay. So a pretty normal Sanda technique for wrestling. Okay. Now, one of the things we do, like from us training, cross training and jiu-jitsu and MMA and stuff like that, is we've started to establish like where the pathways meet to get to the same goal. So let's say I have a headlock on Crane, right? If Crane stays here, even a moron who doesn't know what he's doing or never trained jiu-jitsu in his life knows I hang on to her head for dear life. I raise up and start to choke her, right? So however you end up in this position, that's not important, but it happens a lot, right? The guy puts you in a headlock. If you don't know what you're doing, it sucks. Now, Crane's going to do the exact same takedown. She's going to throw her hand over my shoulder. She's going to grab my left leg with there. She's going to start to circle and take me down, right? So, back up. One more time. So I'll give you a hint or a tip. I'm going to let go of Crane's head so I don't like pull her head off because we're not exactly the same size. But in a real situation, he or she will not let go of your head. They will hang on to it for dear life because they don't know anything else. So when she takes me down, she throws her hand over and pulls me down. Okay. Now, so let's say, can you see me? I still have her head. She still has her arm here. So while I'm trying to choke her, which it's hard now because her head's facing down and I can't get the leverage to go up, her hand that's over my shoulder, just like the Sanda takedown is still there, is going to bite my armpit. See that? Now you'll start to hear me talk funny. She's going to posture up and put all her weight on my face and turn my head. Okay. If I don't let go of her head, she'll choke me unconscious, right? Because it's blocking two carotid arteries. One, I'm blocking my own by getting my head forced into my shoulder, and the other is her shoulder pressing down on the other. Okay. So let's do it again. Nah, we ain't gonna do the takedown again. So I have her head here, right? She has it over. She starts to pressure me. She bites on my armpit, turns, and presses down all this weight on my head. Okay. Cool. So there's different techniques that are used that we do in competition that translates and transfers to what we're doing, right? Like, or in a real life, I say real life situation, but it happens in MMA and other sports too, where they're grappling. Even Sanda it happens, right? The guy puts you in a headlock to crane shoots. I sprawl. I have her headlocked, right? This is why I kick my other leg back, because if I didn't, I'm in deep trouble still. So a lot of these from cross training and having that open mindset, which I think is one of the most important things for self-defense, which I'll get into the last 5 minutes, is the ability for us to take what works and add it to what we do and complement what we do so that you can either train for self-defense or you can compete, right? So next, like I said before, so now we know how to take down. We know how to take down. How do I do? A defense from when she has me in the front headlock or a guillotine. So let's say, what do I do if Crane falls on her butt, right? Whatever happened, I surprised her. I shove her and she falls on her butt, right? Whatever. However she ends up here. Okay. This is something else that I think that Sanda we incorporate into what we do. I think others should too, because man, Sanda's great for fighting, like on your feet. I believe it's probably one of the best martial arts period because it incorporates everything and there's no rule set that stops things, right? Like no, well, we're not going to let you have to kick, you can't kick in the leg or you can't elbow. Of course, in amateur, it has its own rule set, but I've done semi-pro fights where you can do everything. So I think it's a great sport. It's probably the most complete when you're on your feet. But who would I be if I teach students, well, what happens if you fall? Because it can happen. I don't care how well trained I am. I fought for 15, 16 years. I'm in a bar. I flip over. I fall down because somebody's whatever. My shoestrings untied. You need to know what to do, right? Because you have this great weapon that you can't use if you get put on your butt, right? So Crane from here, if I surprise her, push her down, she trips over, a curb or whatever. She cannot sit up to get up in front of me. Just sit up to me. You cannot do it. They will kill you. Okay. They'll kick you in the face, punch you in the head. It is terrible. She is going to keep her back on the mat and away from me because back to what, just like punching, we're going to use our strong muscles to fight with, right? Not just our hands we're going to use our whole body in an intelligent way that allows us to defend ourselves. So Crane's feet will be up. Her knees will be up, right? Because if I try to get to her, she connects to my hip and I can't touch her. Oh, Cory, but what if I tried to move in a circle, right? Of course, in jiu-jitsu, this is the whole game in the sport, right? But if I'm here and I try to punch her, I can't reach her face. Okay. If she's connected to my hips and I try to get around her legs, keep them on my hip. She just stay. I can move her for her. Right. If I really wanted to get her, she's just going to go backwards. Right. So I push Crane down. She falls correctly, chin tucked. If you don't know falling protection, we're not going over it. You need to look it up. I push her. She falls. Right. She's there. Her feet are up. Also, if I'm not careful, she is going to up kick me in my face, my knees, my vulnerable area. To where, man, I don't know if you've ever dealt with somebody on their back who kicks like crazy. It's annoying. Okay. So once I figure out that I can't get to her and she kicks me every time I try to, I'll back off. But I don't want to leave, right? I don't want to disengage because I hate this person or whatever's going on. I want to beat her up. So maybe I try to run around her, right? So she keeps her hands on the mat. See that, like in a V? She uses that to raise her butt up and rotate it in the direction I'm going in. So if I tried to go fast, ooh, it's so good. It's hard. Now remember, like, people like to talk, well, maybe this isn't realistic, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, we're talking about crazy people who have nothing in their mind right now while they're fighting. If you've ever been in a fight, you don't know who you are, what you're doing. All you know is I want to hurt this person. I'm losing my mind. So they're not going to have that trained mindset, right? Self-defense is about trained people fighting untrained people. So yes, do I know what a guard pass is in jiu-jitsu? Yeah, I do. But does he know what it is? No, he doesn't, right? So, sorry. Yeah, we'll go again. Now, one more thing. So, recap on this. If I push Crane down or she trips, she keeps her knees up, right? Because she's going to kick the crap out of me every time I get to her. She will kick me where it hurts the most, my face, my head, my knees, my hoo-ha, everything, right? If I try to move around her, she follows. She raises her butt and follows. If I try to connect to her, she keeps me at a distance where she can get pushed back all day, right? And because she controls my hips and this distance, there's no way I can teach Crane how to get into an altercation and not get hit. It's like fighting, right? If I could not get hit, I'd be the most famous person in the world, because who would not want that power? And if anybody says it exists, they're a liar, because if they did, they could be the greatest fighter of all time who never got hit. So she is going to get hit. She is going to, it's fighting is fighting. She's going to get hurt, not hurt. She's going to get hit, but she compromises my ability to hit her correctly because she plays with my balance. I can't get to her without messing up, right? I can't bring my weight to bear on her to hit her hard. Okay. So if I'm here to connect, she connects to me, keeps the distance. If I'm not, she is kicking the crap out of me until I get too close. Then she connects to me. If I back off because I don't like getting kicked, I move. She follows with her butt coming up and using her hands to change the direction of where her butt's going, right? Okay, next, like I said before, let's say I get far enough, or sometimes Crane pushes me away, get away from her, right? So, or again, if a person who's not trained doesn't know how to stand, my feet crossed, I fall over myself, right? You see that all the time. Guy trips over himself, other guy trips over himself, whatever. How to stand up correctly is also super important. Doesn't matter what you do. I can be sitting at home and I stand up this way because it's efficient, and two, it's just ingrained in my brain. So if she gets me away or she has the opportunity, she's going to sit right there. So one foot comes up to the knee, where her knee's up. The other foot is sitting inside. Okay. So this foot and this hand is her base. So can you keeping those two? Yeah, like this. See how she can pick her body up, but just on those 2 points back down. So from there, this is the way she stands up correctly, right? So she's going to raise up and take her back foot back to her hand and put it on the mat. All the while protecting herself or pushing me away or whatever. Or sometimes if she's down, sometimes she kicks me away, right? Because I don't suggest you fight anybody if you don't want to fight. If she kicks me away, she stands up and takes off running, right? Just enough to get up and go, okay? So, same thing before. Sit down one more time, Crane. If you even see it sometimes in fighting, man. Lay down and you sit up incorrectly. Man, you cannot sit up this way, okay? You can sometimes, but I wouldn't suggest it. You better not sit up to try to single leg me either, right? You're already in a bad position. You're going to get sprawled on. It's hard. Okay. So you stand up correctly. She stands up. Boom. Maybe she does want to shoot. All right. Go back and so sit, go down. Sometimes if I'm really committed, she stands up and then immediately shoots. But she's in a strong position to do so, right? Her back straight, her legs underneath her like a strong deadlift, right? She's in a strong position. This, getting up on your knees, is not a strong position. Okay? Okay. Now, let's just do another situational technique, right? So, a lot of times, if Crane wanted to kidnap me, which is possible, but not likely, if there's two situations where, ideally, right, to untrained people, to how they will hold me. If they grip me under my arms, I have the mobility of my arms. That mobility, sometimes if she's not paying attention, allows me to elbow her, right? Because a lot of people don't know to keep their head in the small of my back. I can elbow her, or first little takedown we'll do is this. Same thing as a standard takedown almost, right? She puts me in a headlock. She tries to do a hip throw. By the way, hip throw of my head. There you go. This. Look. See how my feet, okay? Sometimes have you ever seen the counter to where I try to hip throw Crane, it's not working. I step behind here. Right? No? Yeah? Cool. So another one of those pathways in which Sanda pushes into another sport, not another sport, another situation. Okay. I'll do it to Crane so I don't have to, she doesn't slam me on my head. So we'll rotate so you can see, right? So here, if she's under my arms, I have mobility in my arms. Okay. I can try to elbow her or do whatever I can try to do. Okay. If it's not working, look, I'm going to bite as high. If I can get to this elbow, that's what I want to get to. But whatever I get to, I stay. My left hand, whichever side I'm coming to, that hand, Pika's hand, is going to bite her hand. I don't want her to move it anymore because I want to keep her where she's at. I don't want to be able to rotate. I don't want her to start trying to follow me when I move. Now, I'm going to stick my butt out and I'm going to take my right foot and step all the way around her. Here, right? My back foot comes around her. Damn, the color's terrible. So here, right? My back foot around her. My hands come to her knees. I pick up and I drop everything I have on top of her. Okay. Now you might say, heavy. Maybe, it's too, what if he's way too big? So she bites down on one arm. She steps around big with the other leg. Man, grab both my knees. The other one too. Now look, dudes, I don't know if she can pick me up. Yeah, she probably can. Okay. But it's about being in one of those strong positions to where if I put my body in a position that it's strong, I can do things. If I compromise it by doing bad structural things, I can't, right? I fall over, I get hurt, right? So I bite, step across behind, right? Both knees. She's already got all her weight on my hip. I just put it back, right? And I'm going to drop on her too. Okay. Next. When I have this, if I'm intelligent, I know how to wrestle. If I'm trained and I know how to wrestle and I have Crane below the waist, I won't keep my head next to Crane because she'll elbow me. She's going to hit me and it's annoying. Okay. So if I'm intelligent, I put my head behind her body so that she can't do this. This is another self-defense move if I had to wrestle somebody. Okay. But for now, if Crane's not intelligent and she hasn't done this before, right? I fight somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. She keeps her head here, right? I can hit her or do whatever to make it crazy for her. But watch, what I really want to try to do is face her. So yeah, I can pick her up and do the takedown if I can get it. But sometimes maybe whichever the situation calls, or whatever you're calm enough to actually do. So here, I bite her hand again, and I'm going to take my hand and come all the way underneath her arm and whizzer it. Okay. Or as much as I can, I bite, whizzer. Here, right? See my hand? It's over her arm now. This allows me to face her. Right? So, if I don't know what I'm doing, I got Crane. I don't keep my head in the right spot. She roses. She can elbow me. She bites my arm and throws this all the way to the other side. You can do this in hip throw, but we're not doing that technique today. So whizzer my arm. No, over my armpit. That's left arm. There. From here, look, I don't have the ability to stay behind her anymore because her arm's in the way. And now she takes this hand and puts it inside this hole that I just made and pushes my hips. And now she's in front of me again. So now she can get away. She can fight somebody she's looking at. Right? So, one more time. If I'm here and my head's in the wrong position, she hits me or whatever. She whizzers on the far side. Now she has this opening to get this underhook inside my arm. And it's hard for me. Even if I hold her, she has double unders. She can push my hips. So I'm not going to be able to get close enough to her to do anything. Remember, this is also, I know what I'm doing. People out there don't know what they're doing. Untrained people. So, ground, how to take down from the headlock, how to take down from the back. One more back takedown. If crane, we'll do the headlock that I lied that I said we weren't going to do. So, when she's here, right, if she's not smart and she doesn't keep her head in front of my bot or behind me, right, I control her head here, right, and I headlock. My other hand grabs and pulls her left hand, right, or her right hand. So I have all this. Now, I'm going to step out, circle a little bit, crane. My right hand, no, other way, here, because she wants to stay behind me. She doesn't want to come in front because I have her head. So my right foot kicks out, my left, and now in this turning motion, I am going to turning my face all the way to try to make my back fall on the mat. As long as I keep crane locked tight and I step out, driving my feet, look at my feet turn, I'm turning my face. As long as I keep this locked and turn my head, she will hit the ground before me. Okay? So you try. So, she's here. She gets me in the head control. Bites here, right? As long as she keeps this tight to where I can't pop my head out and turns her face, her right foot kicks out right in front of my, so I can't step around and defend, right? She turns, all the way on top. Okay? Knock my headpiece off. You're so violent. Okay. So, another one of those moves that, because Sanda's so open, translates and transfers into other paths, into other ways of fighting, okay? So, we got 20 minutes. We'll do 5 more minutes on the shoot in, right? So, like I said before, I don't ever want to end up on my back. So, we talked about what happens if crane falls on her back, right? If I knock crane down, she falls correctly, she keeps her knees up, she's offensive, she can kick me, keep me away while hurting me. A lot of times I might not want to do it no more because it's not easy, which I'll get to in 5 minutes. If I back off, she can stand up in correct base and get away, right? Or if I try to commit to hitting her, she's constantly playing with my base to where I can't keep a solid foundation because she's kicking her legs around. And I can't reach her effectively to hit her. Of course I might touch her, but I'm not in a strong enough position to be able to inflict damage, right? Me tying my feet together and trying to punch crane with my right hand, like, yeah, I could do it, but I'm not going to be able to effectively do it in a way that's, what's the word I'm looking for? Significant, right? So sometimes, which is another Sanda move, which is great. We did this takedown, right? So let's just do a simple double leg. So sometimes I think, especially for people who don't know what's gonna, or, you know, who aren't familiar with fighting, a lot of times the safest thing to do is what happens if you ever see, what happens when two people who don't know how to fight, what happens? 90% of the time, one guy runs at the other, just runs, and tries to get him, okay? Because they're so emotional, right? When you have emotion, it's crazy. But, so, a lot of times the safest thing I can do to not take any chances on myself getting hit or an accident happening, which is always possible, I take her down. Okay, because like I said, the worst position she can be is with her back on the mat. And if you don't know what's going on, it's the worst position ever. So when she comes, I change levels with my back straight, right? She comes, back straight. Hands up, like you're gonna hit me. Back straight, I change levels, right? I don't bend over at my butt. I bend my knees, bam. Back straight. I hit her with my shoulder in both her knees, right? So when I hit her, bam, I send my hip in. I don't try to raise my butt up because now I'm not strong. I send my hip in, and then I'm going to turn her, right? So I dump her on her head or end up on top. Change levels. Up and over, right? Whether I take her down, I want to stay here, I want to get out of here, or I lay on her, that's your decision. Okay? One more time. She comes, change levels. Bam. Up. Turn. Okay? Another thing that like Sanda transfers into other things, okay? Last technique, which is not primarily, well, it's not in Sanda at all, really, is what happens if Crane, I'll do it with Crane. What happens if Crane, I fall down, Crane's on her back, like she had fell down, and for whatever reason, I got here and I'm not standing up. So now I don't have the risk of falling. And I also don't have the ability to move because I'm on my knees. And I can get close enough to her to hug her legs and feel, oh, what if I hug her legs, right? So if I can get close enough to hug her without her kicking the crap out of me a million times, she's going to sit up, and just like we did before, she's going to stand up in base. She's going to put that leg on the ground, this one on the ground, even if I'm hugging it. Now get to your hand. Your hand. This. Now raise up and pull your leg out, right? Because if I hold with both, I lose my base and I fall over. So even here, she's here. She stands up in base. She pushes me away and pulls her leg out and go. Turn your knee and run. Right? Just like stand. I turn my knee down and I get out from holding it. Okay. So now I got like 5 more minutes, Cindy, or 10?
You have 10 minutes.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my little 5-minute spill, and then if you guys have any questions, you can ask. One of the things that we do when we teach these self-defense seminars is, and I'll say this in my humble yet educated opinion from having fought for so long, people who teach self-defense usually, they like to have these scenarios, right? Like, yeah, I showed you a couple of scenarios for moves that I can do for them. But honestly, if I want to train to be self-defense efficient is what we call it, I have to train like I fight, right? And if I was to, if people who come into our gym and talk to me about, hey, you know, my kid's 16, he has some issues with other kids at school, you know, what do we do about that? Or like Crane, not Crane in particular, but a girl like Crane who's 20 years old, you know, she moves to Lubbock to go to college. She's by herself. Her family's not here. So maybe she has, you know, she has this fear. She wants to be able to take some self-defense classes to be able to handle herself. Self-defense, 90% of the time, people that teach it, they give you a gun or they give you a knife and things like this. Man, Coach Lee's fought for 25 years. I've fought for like 16. I swear to you, if somebody puts a gun on me, I mean, I don't know what I can do to stop that. All that crazy stuff you pull, I wouldn't suggest you try that. You'll get shot. Knife defense, yeah, you can fight the guy. You can probably be okay if you're well trained, but you're going to get cut up. All that to say, if I fight Crane and I don't know what I'm doing and she knows what she's doing, the reality of the situation is I'm twice her size. I'm crazy. I'm mean. Self-defense efficient is all you can hope to be and all you can train hard to be. Meaning, if Crane kicks me in my head, I fell asleep, awesome. If Crane takes me down, chokes me unconscious, great. But man, it's like, you know, we got a couple of linemen who play Division I football. If they come in and train with me, yeah, I can beat them somewhat, but it's not easy, right? And that's the whole point about being self-defense efficient is all you can do is train Sanda where you punch and kick and wrestle and you know how to move. And then you train jujitsu so you know what to do when you hit the ground, right? And in my opinion, you should do both and you should compete. If you're really serious about self-defense, you should compete because the number one thing about fighting is the adrenaline dump, the emotions, the freaking out, It's like, how long has anybody ever seen a street fight last longer than 2 minutes? No, because they don't breathe. They're losing their mind in there, right? So if you're serious about self-defense, you need to train Sanda, you need to train jujitsu, you need to fight and compete so that you learn how to compete under pressure. You learn what it's like to have one person who wants to hurt you and you have to stop them and beat them, right? Like you have to know what that one-on-one confrontational feeling is, and you have to become accustomed to it so that you can perform or be out there and protect yourself to the best of your ability, right? I can't teach Crane to go out and kill any man on the planet, and I can't teach myself to do the same. And anybody who says so is they're a liar. But you can be self-defense efficient. If I'm pretty confident in Crane, she's fought a long time, she's fought overseas. If Crane was attacked by somebody, it will not be easy. They might beat her up, they might hurt her, but it will not be easy. And the entire time this is happening, she is screaming. She's trying to get help. She's trying to do what she can. She's trying to get away. So you take all that. It's hard. Even for me, it would be hard for me to tackle Crane and keep her there and beat her up if I didn't know what I'm doing and she knows what she's doing. It can happen because of size differences. This is why they have weight classes. Anybody who thinks that, size doesn't matter, why do they have weight classes? It's because it matters. But with training and the right mindset, you can make it hard. And that's the best you can do. And of course, if she fights somebody her size who doesn't know what to do, deep crap. But the idea when we teach self-defense here at the gym, we do not lie. I cannot say, Crane, I can teach you this move today. Yeah, you'll kill everybody. I can't do that. But I can teach her, train her, have her compete, have her do jujitsu, have her compete in jujitsu, have her wrestle, have her do Sanda, and use that open mindset that Sanda's, I think, has the most important quality to it, to be as well-rounded and efficient as possible, to where if I fight a defensive lineman who plays for the Cowboys, he might pick me up and lay on me, but it will not be easy. And I'm there to survive, to where I can scream for help, do everything I can to control him, and make it hard. But it's like I said a million times to these girls, these sororities we teach these self-defense seminars, is if self-defense is important to you, truly important to you, you need to go to your local gym and sign up and train. You need to train, you need to compete, you need to do everything you can, and you also need to buy a gun, in my opinion. And you need to train how to use that gun. You need to practice just as much with it as you do this, right? Because you've seen videos to where she has a gun, but she's never been in a confrontational situation. They walk up and pull it from her, right? Like, you have to be used to everything that comes with fighting. People who like to talk about, we're self-defense, we can teach you everything. They've never fought, and they don't, in my opinion, it's disingenuous because they don't take it serious. It is serious. So you need to train the entire thing. You need to do everything you can, compete, put yourself in those hard situations so that, God forbid, something does happen, you can handle it. You can stay calm. You can make the decisions you need to make. You can defend yourself and be as prepared as possible. But nobody can make you defense proof. I can't teach you to kill everybody. I can't teach you to never lose. It's impossible. But you can do the best you can to be as prepared as you can. And hopefully you never have to use it. Right. And last but not least, and then we'll see if you guys have any questions. The most important thing about self-defense, and this, you can even research this, is confidence. If Crane is confident, she gets out of her car, she's got her head's up, her shoulders are back, she walks into the grocery store, man, she's not an easy target. And cowards who attack people do not want a hard time. They want somebody, and this is what I mean, you can research it and look at all those people who abducted women and things like that, kids. They look for easy targets. Nobody wants to go out into a parking lot and get in a fight for their life, even the guy who's doing these bad things, right? So the most important thing you can have for self-defense is confidence. And training gives you confidence because you training, competing, sparring, wrestling, jiu-jitsu allows you to believe in yourself that, hey, I'm not undefeated because these people at the gym beat me, but I'm prepared. I train really hard for this moment. I compete and I do everything I can to be prepared for it. Therefore, that confidence will come out. It's the same reason why children train martial arts. Confidence is the biggest deterrent for self-defense, right? But, yeah, you got anything to say? Good job, Crane. But okay, Cindy, you got any questions or anything else?
No, I don't have any questions, so I guess that will be the session. And so thank you very much for Cory Johnson and Maria. And later on, starting at 7 Central and 8 Eastern Time, we will have a happy hour. So where people can join and just have a chat, or we can have questions. If you still have questions about this session or previous session, welcome to join. And some of the previous moderator, presenter, and some of the instructor will also join. So stay around, and we will have the happy hour in a couple minutes. Thank you, Cory. Thank you, Maria.